Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ultimus. We are now at the final video for our class overview / class preview series for Legion. Looking at the Rogue now, my arch nemesis as a warrior. It's just, you know, it's been in our blood since vanilla. Something about rogues and warriors, we just don't get along. We don't even synergize well in PvP, for crying out loud. It's like we're made to be rivals with one another. The next closest thing to the only pure melee class in the game, the reason I say they're disqualified because they do deal some shadow damage, but we're not going to argue all that here. As you can see, I'm wearing my hoodie, so just in case we need to during this video, we can cloak of shadows and peace out. But in all seriousness, let's go ahead and jump right into the Rogue class as we wrap up this series. I will have all of these videos put together in a playlist if you want to share them with a friend or just kind of save that for yourself for future reference. So all of these videos will be in one playlist and in one spot, so they'll be easier for you guys to find. Or if you weren't able to catch one, you missed one, want to go back and watch one again, all that good stuff. So I'm going to get all that organized for you guys as soon as this one goes live. Cool. So for Rogues, the sneakiest little buggers in all of WoW. Rogues fend for themselves, looking for fights in which they dictate the terms. Ain't that the truth? They're the shadow. They're the shadows in the night that remain unseen until the right moment comes to strike. Then they dispatch the opponent with quick blade work and a deadly toxin snuck acutely. Wow, we are already off to a great start. Into the bloodstream. Terrifying. Rogues are opportunistic thieves, bandits, and assassins, but there's an unparalleled art to what they do. Yeah, it's like, even playing a rogue is like a friggin' other algorithm altogether. It's like trying to pass a math class, dude. Maybe it's just because I play a warrior and it's just a different play style, but me and rogues never got along. I just couldn't ever pick one up. I mean, I'm having fun leveling one, but other than that, it's just like I don't get it. It's just different. As with hunters, the three rogue specializations have long suffered from a lack of distinct identity. What truly sets an assassin rogue apart from a subtlety, and just what is a combat rogue anyways? Aren't all three pretty focused on the art of combat? Well, with that in mind, we're making some bold changes that take each spec in a much more pronounced direction. We're finding what makes them each special and amplifying their fantasy by creating abilities and talents unique to each spec that better align with their core theme. So, in case you were unaware or you missed the memo, something along those lines, because we're on the topic, we're going to address it. Rogues are getting one of the bigger overhauls in Legion in that combat is no longer going to be a spec. It is gone altogether, and they are renaming it, reworking it entirely. And by reworking, I mean they're literally reworking it. It's not that they're just renaming it like they did with Hunters back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but they used to have a spec called Outdoorsmanship, and that is what we call today Survival. No, nothing like that. I'm talking like a full-on rework of this class, and it sounds OP as all get out. As with anything that's new in an expansion, when it first launches, it's going to be OP because it hasn't been properly balanced yet with the mass presence of players. Remember, Death Knights when they launched, OP as all get out. Monks when they launched, OP. I guarantee you Demon Hunters are going to be OP, and I'm sure not Assassination, I'm staring at the word Assassination here, but Outlaw Rogues are going to be OP as well. They sound cool though. Maybe not cool enough for me to actually play one. I mean, I'll probably dabble in it since I'll have a 100 rogue by the time we get to Legion. But interesting ideas, and I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and we'll address the issues, of course, as they come up, and with each spec. For Assassination, one of the favorite tools of the assassin is a pair of daggers coated with vicious poisons. The damage they inflict is deceiving at first. The initial wounds often seem survivable, even superficial. Then the toxins set about their business. Wounds don't close and blood loss continues unabated. Assassins begin their work stealthily, choosing their targets and methods of engagement carefully. But once committed to a course of action, they stick to their target until the job is done, rather than disappearing into the shadows to avoid their quarry's blows. Gameplay. For rogues, no specialization describes itself better than Assassination, which also remains closely aligned with its existing fantasy, and we're further enhancing those themes through their gameplay. First, this is now the only rogue spec with access to poisons and bleeds. Interesting. I knew the poisons bit, but bleeds, that's interesting. Making much of your damage a little more delayed, but nonetheless massive. In addition, venomous wounds triggers based on a combination of bleeds and poisons now to accentuate that gameplay. Assassination is home to the most volatile combo building. Mutilate is already effective in this regard, but Seal Fate needed some improvement. It can now trigger from both hands with Mutilate. Interesting. Here's a basic look at the core combat abilities for Assassination Rogues. Garrote is a 45 energy melee range instant with a 15-second cooldown. Garrote the enemy, causing strong damage over 18 seconds and awarding 1 combo point, and it silences the target for 3 seconds when used from stealth. Mutilate is a 55 energy melee range instant, an attack with both weapons, dealing strong physical damage and awards 2 combo points. Envenom is a 35 energy 1-5 combo point melee range instant, a finishing move that drives your poison blades in deep, dealing instant nature damage and increasing your poison application chance by 30%. Damage and duration increased per combo point. Rupture is a 25 energy 1-5 combo point melee range instant, finishing move that tears open the target, dealing bleed damage over time, lasts longer per combo point, so both of those finishing moves still pretty much function the same way. Seal Fate is a passive. When you critically strike with a melee attack that generates combo points, you gain an additional combo point. Venomous Points is a passive. You gain 10 energy each time you deal bleed damage to a poison target. And your Mastery's Potent Poisons increases the damage done by your poisons by 70% with Mastery from typical gear. Additionally, to give you an idea of how some talents may build upon this, here's an example of one of their assassination-specific talents. Elaborate Planning is a passive. Your finishing moves grant 20% increased damage done for 4 seconds. Man. So again, they're really trying to build on this whole idea that at first you don't take the Assassination Rogue seriously, and that's what's going to be your undoing because you weren't paying attention or because it seemed like such a small thing at first. Eventually it's going to catch up and it's going to build on itself. I'll be curious if they build on the whole combo. And it sounds like they're going to, at least they hinted at it, but building on like the combo rotation, kind of like they're doing with monks, although monks have a very unique style in that it's almost like a fighting game where you're wanting to chain your attacks properly and not mimic the same attack twice because you want your attacks to do more damage. But with rogues, you want your poisons to stack properly. So I'll be curious to see what it looks like what the combo rotation is going to be like for rogues and trying to get the most out of your poisons. Combat. Gone! Okay, not exactly. The lack of clear theme for the combat rogue really gave us an opportunity to reimagine the spec and Legion to ensure that they have their own depth of character and a unique fighting style that sets them apart from other rogue specs. If you'll notice here in this picture, even Blizzard knows the rivalry between rogues and warriors goes deep. It's just, everybody knows it. If you're a warrior, you want to just take a poo on rogues, and if you're a rogue, you're out to make the warrior's life miserable. That's just the way it works. Outlaw. Outlaw rogues are the unscrupulous scoundrels of Azeroth. Operating outside the law, they bend the rules and distort the truth to get what they need. So, are they going to be like a goblin race exclusive? Only goblins can play outlaws? While they share plenty in common with other rogues, these outlaws have little use for tact or discretion. Discretion? Yeah, I guess discretion is the right word. We'll go with discretion. Something in my head tells me that's correct. Happy to engage in tavern brawl or spontaneous duel. Rarely patient enough to wait in stealth for the opportune time to engage. To survive in such a world, outlaws must become master swordsmen in toe-to-toe combat, and they can't shy away from fighting dirty. If the blade fails to cut too deeply, the outlaw takes advantage of the concealed pistol, catching the enemy by surprise with a quick blast. Now, I'd like to point out that a lot of us, including myself, when we were kind of speculating as to what the next WoW expansion was going to be, and we were going with the whole South Seas thing, and we were kind of half wrong, kind of half right, sort of, not really, maybe, who knows, you can, make your own distinctions on that. We were hoping for some rogue pistols, or maybe even hunter pistols, and it looks like we got it. So I don't know if this was someone at Blizzard, like, leaking stuff and trying to get the hype train going, so by the time the Outlaw Rogue came, we were all already hyped up for it, and then we were even more excited, but I think the idea of having like a concealed pistol thing for a rogue is just kind of cool. Like, you're obviously not going to have a pistol to equip, but just the concept of having one concealed you can pull out and blast someone with, I think that's just a cool concept. And so I think that's what has me the most intrigued with the Outlaw Rogue. Basically like a pirate or like a bounty hunter, essentially, which is kind of cool. I mean, I wonder if we'll see any like Outlaw Rogues named Boba Fett. Just an idea. Gameplay. To achieve the Swordsmaster fantasy we're going for with the Outlaw Rogue, we're giving them several new and upgraded abilities. such as Saber Slash and Pistol Shot. We're also de-emphasizing stealth, with Ambush being their only remaining opening move. Interesting. Stealth will still provide its core rogue utility, but Outlaws are more comfortable fighting toe-to-toe with a sword than shulking around. Finally, we're ensuring that Outlaws retain several signatures like abilities from combat, such as Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry. These abilities provide a good basis on which to build new and distinct flavor. A wide variety of talents enhance the fantasy further, with themes of the Swordsmaster, Brawler, or even Pirate. So, less emphasis on stealth, but it's still there. Your opener is really only going to be that one ability, which is fine. Again, it's if you want to play a leatherware, quick melee Swordsmaster, the idea, but you don't really want to play obviously you don't want to play a Fury Wear. I like the idea that they're giving you another option rather than the only dual wielding classes you really have to play would be Frost Death Knight, Fury Warrior, or Enhancement Shaman now. Obviously Windwalker Monk because of the fist weapons, but that's a whole different fantasy in itself. So typically if you're looking for like a dual wielding of a sword kind of thing, you're really not probably looking at a monk necessarily anymore. So I think this is a good time to introduce this for rogues, because it gives a couple plate wearers, a mail wearer, and a leather weather an opportunity to kind of be that dual wielding weapon master. And again, if they can pull this off to where it's distinct enough from the rest, I think it'll find its place in WoW. I really do. Here's a basic look at the core combat abilities for Outlaws. Saber Slash is a 50 energy melee range instant, viciously slashing an enemy, causing moderate physical damage, and awarding 1 combo point. Saber Slash has a 35% chance to strike an additional time, granting additional damage and combo point, and making your next pistol shot free. Pistol Shot is a 40 energy, 20 yard range instant. Draw a concealed pistol and fire a quick shot at an enemy, dealing moderate physical damage and reducing movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. And it awards 1 combo point. Slice and Dice, still very familiar with what we have right now. 25 energy, instant finishing move that consumes combo points to increase the attack speed by 40%. Lasts longer per combo point. Run Through was 35 energy, 1 to 5 combo points, 8 yard range. And it's an instant. Lunging finishing move that causes damage per combo point, increases and has increased range. Interesting. So the more combo points you have on it, it has an increased range to it. Kind of cool. Combat Potency, passive. Your offhand attacks have a chance to generate 15 energy. Slower weapons have a higher chance. Ruthlessness is a passive, and your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point spent to grant a combo point. Now, what I'm actually curious about is all these moves and abilities that have like something to do with slower weapons. I wonder how they're going to work that into Legion with everybody just having one weapon the entire expansion. Like, I can't be the only one wondering that, how that's going to work. I'm curious, because it does. I mean, unless they're going all like crazy with this and you're able to like run a talent in your artifact weapon that lets you increase the weight. Like you're just adding like metal studs to the bottom of your weapon to slow it down so it like does more damage. I don't know how that's going to work. That almost makes me feel like that's got to be an error in the tooltip they're laying out. I'll be curious to keep an eye on that and see how that's changed, because I know it's not just rogues. That's been something that's been brought up for a couple other classes as well. So we'll have to see what that all looks like come beta and then of course live. Your mastery is Main Gauche. I think that's how you pronounce it. I never could pronounce that, Robert. I'm not gonna lie. It's just me and English. We're not friends. Your main hand attacks have a 44% with mastery from typical gear. Chance to trigger an attack with your offhand that deals minor physical damage. So lots of secondary attacks. Almost reminds me of basically what Arms Warrior's Sword Mastery or Sword Specialization used to be back in Vanilla through Wrath of the Lich King is when it was there. Basically, if you went into Sword Specialization, you had a percentage, a chance to trigger a second attack on your sword attacks, which I always liked the mechanic, though I typically lost out to the crit, typically, and then armor pen for a bit. But yeah, just very, very interesting that they're giving this idea to outlaw rogues. Interesting stuff. And then additionally, to give you an idea of how some talents may build upon this, here's an example of one of their outlaw-specific talents. Quick Draw is a passive. Free uses of Pistol Shot granted by Saber Slash now generate 1 additional combo point and deal 50% increased damage. So the idea of rotating these two, this Saber Slash, Pistol Shot, And this whole quick draw mechanic is going to build heavily on just cycling those two out so you can get more damage out of them. I really am curious what the gameplay is going to be like and how much variety we're going to see with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what good rogues can do with Outlaw and if they try it out and if they like it. Part of me feels like Subtlety might still be the go-to PvP spec. Despite some controversial changes they've made. And we'll get into that in a second. But I'm curious to see which spec will come out on top for Legion for PvP. Or if Blizzard can actually achieve what they really want and making it to where, for the most part, if you want to play a certain spec, you'll have a place in PvP or in raiding. I really hope we can get to that point sooner or later. And I feel like Legion is the expansion that has the most promise of that being a reality. But as always, that's, yet to be seen. Subtlety. Now again, subtlety is under the microscope a little bit here, and subtlety is actually the point of much controversy. And we'll go into that a little bit, as much as I can remember at least. Subtlety rogues are the masters of the shadows, and they strike unseen. They don't have the lethal poison tip daggers of the assassin or the brawling prowess of the outlaw, but their acumen on the battlefield and ability to hide in plain sight are unrivaled. Some claim the art of subtlety looks like malevolent shadow magic. But no matter from where their powers are derived, these rogues are capable of performing devastating assaults on their enemies, slipping away unharmed to strike again without detection. Most rogues train their entire lives to learn how to walk in the shadows. Subtlety rogues were born there. I see what you did there, Blizzard, you and your Batman reference, you clever girl. Ha! Gameplay. As the true masters of stealthy gameplay, we've pushed Subtlety further towards making heavy use of stealth as their primary combat mechanic. A new version of Shadow Dance allows Subtlety to weave in and out of stealth rotationally. Meanwhile, Shadow Strike provides incredible mobility for attacking from stealth. Finally, to further reinforce the matter of their relationship with sinister shadow magic, Subtlety makes use of a new ability called Nightblade, which applies shadow damage over time. Interesting. Here's a basic look at the core combat abilities for Subtlety rogues. Shadow Strike is a 40 energy, 30 yard range instant, requires stealth. Strike through the shadows, appearing behind your target and dealing strong physical damage, awards 2 combo points. Backstab is a 35 energy melee range instant. Stab the target, causing moderate physical damage. Damage increased by 30% when behind your target and awards 1 combo point. Interesting. Can you use backstab right now when you're not behind? I feel like you can't use backstab when you're in front of your target now. So sounds like they're changing backstab a little bit, which is kind of cool. So if you're able to actually get behind your opponent, it's going to reward you with 30% additional damage. But I don't know how it's going to work out or how good that'll be with it just being able to attack no matter what. Nightblade is a 25 energy, 1 to 5 combo point melee range instant, and it's a finishing move that infects the target with shadowy energy, dealing shadow damage over time and reducing movement speed by 50%. Damage and duration are of course increased per combo point. Eviscerate is a 35 energy, 1 to 5 combo point melee range instant, and is a finishing move that disembowels the target, dealing increased damage per combo point. Shadow Dance is now a passive? Shadow Dance is a pretty major cooldown right now for Subtlety rogues, if I'm not mistaken. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to activate stealth. For 3 seconds, this stealth will not break when you auto-attack or take damage. When this effect occurs, the shadow decoy, or a shadow decoy, will appear nearby, confusing your enemies. And then we have a developer comment here which states this will function differently in PvP, granting the use of abilities that require stealth but not actually providing stealth. That's interesting. So it'll pretty much function the same way it does now, just it'll now be an RNG proc. That'll be interesting. So it's giving you a reason to keep using your finishing moves because they have a 20% chance per combo point spent. So if you land hypothetically is what it sounds like it's saying, is if you use a finishing move with all 5 combo points, you're going to get a 100% chance to activate Shadow Dance, which in PvP allows you to use your abilities that require stealth, but not actually provide stealth. So that's interesting. If you play a rogue, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about one of your major offensive cooldowns being turned into an RNG. I mean, you have control over it. It's not as RNG, and it's not as bad as Arms Warriors are. Because so I suppose I can't even say it's RNG, but how do you feel about Shadow Dance being changed like that, I should say? Now that I'm rereading this a couple times, I'm realizing I was wrong in saying it's RNG. It just depends on how many combo points you want to dump into it. So you have complete control over if it functions or not. But how do you feel about that? If you play Rogue, please do let me know. I am curious. Shadow Techniques is a passive. Your auto attacks have a chance to generate a combo point. And your Mastery is Executioner. Increases the damage done by your finishing moves by 55%. Just straight buff to your finishers. Awesome. Additionally, to give you an idea of how some talents will build upon this, here's an example of one of their subtlety-specific talents. Relentless Strikes is a passive, and you gain an additional 40 energy when you enter Stealth. So, enter Stealth, gets a buff to your energy, just instant 40 energy. That's what helps you set up those openers all over again. Now, what I was reading on Twitter was, and I cannot remember the name of the ability, so please forgive me. And this was an actual conversation with the Warcraft devs, so this is legit. But Shadow Step, and I think it's Shadow Strike, and Sinister Strike. Sinister Strike is subtlety, right? I don't remember. And you're like your main attack. They're basically being merged into one, which is the Shadow Strike ability there, which had a lot of rogues upset because Shadow Step is your main like gap closer, but you don't always necessarily want to attack because you'd use it on allies. So I'm not sure how this is all going to play out, how this is going to work. I'm keeping an eye on this, partly because, again, I might actually try playing a Rogue Legion because I haven't decided on what my alts are going to be yet, so I might go completely crazy and try something different. But I know a lot of rogues are upset about this, so I'm curious if you play a rogue, or if you have someone that knows someone who plays a rogue, rather, what their thoughts are on this, specifically for PvP. Because I'm thinking about it right now, and I can already think of a couple things that would cause problems with it. I mean, because right now you can use Shadow Strike to port to a friendly, which is extremely useful. Immediately attacking, you might not want to do that. Just an idea of, you don't necessarily want to always attack right away. I mean, it's not always the case, and 9 times out of 10 you are attacking anyways, but on the off chance that you don't, forcing you into that attack. But just combining them into one move. I mean, there's no cooldown. But I feel like that would get awkward and annoying really quickly if you're using Shadow Strike and it's constantly putting you behind your target. Like, every time you use it, you're just right behind, right behind, right behind. I mean, sometimes, I don't know. It just sounds, I'm curious if they'll keep it or if they'll remove it back if rogues raise enough of a stink. We'll see. Interesting stuff. The one that I definitely have my most attention definitely is Subtlety and Outlaw for sure. Assassination is fun, but Subtlety is what I've played the most. Assassination I've dabbled in, but just because Outlaw is going to be brand new, I'm curious to see how it looks and how it works. Of course, in PvP, I'm curious how we'll counter it and stuff like that, and what comps will work well with it. Maybe like Warriors and Rogues will finally synergize together in some weird way. I don't know. That'd be the day, right? It finally happens after I make all these comments about Rogues and Warriors never working together. It finally happens. But I think that's going to do it for this video. If you do play a Rogue, I'd love to hear from you guys, what you have to say, what you think, what your thoughts are on the changes. As always, please keep it constructive. I don't want to hear Blizzard is dumb and they're just dumb and all you have is just like nasty, negative stuff without an actual reason for it. I just don't care. I really don't. But constructive criticism and actually dialoguing about it is the stuff I'm interested in. So, as always, please hit it with a like, comment, and a share if you enjoyed it and think you know some people that would enjoy the video as well. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. And of course, again, to repeat what I said at the beginning of the video, this is the last video in our class overview series. There will be a playlist up so you can go through and check all the ones that we've done. And then I'm going to be soon following up with my Warrior video. I'm going to be going back and readdressing some of the issues I feel like we're going to be running into with Warriors. And some of the stuff that is an issue now, and I could see it potentially being an issue in Legion and just addressing that. It's definitely going to be something to where if I get into Legion beta, I've actually been tweeting at some of the Warcraft devs, just being like, hey, can I, like, hey, I'm being a punk about it. I really am. I don't know if that makes me sound or look entitled or not. I hope not, but I'm just like, I want in. I want in. I want to take a look at all this stuff. I want to make videos and content for you guys, and I want to check it out for myself. But I'm just really curious how Warriors are going to look. There's a lot of danger for potential pitfalls there. So I'm going to be doing a video soon to follow up with that. I wanted to get all the other class previews out of the way before we doubled up on Warriors here. Didn't want to double dip too much. But expect that within the next few days or so. Maybe, hopefully not longer than a week. I do got some other videos I want to get out first. But I'm going to end this video. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.